attention to this woman entering the assisted living facility. Her name is Jennifer Hartwell. She is 34 years old. She's worked as a certified nursing assistant for 11 years. Her shift starts at 6 a.m. She has no criminal record, no history of financial crimes, no complaints filed against her in a decade of caregiving. Now pay attention to the elderly man in the wheelchair by the window. His name is Arthur Brennan. He is 81 years old. 3 months ago, he suffered a massive stroke. His wife of 53 years died 2 years before that. His 3 adult children visit once a month, if that. Within 18 months, Jennifer Hartwell would be dead. Within 19 months, Arthur Brennan would follow, and his children would be arrested for conspiracy to commit murder. This is their story. Jennifer Hartwell grew up in Akron, Ohio. She was the oldest of 4 children. When she was 19, her mother was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's. Jennifer dropped out of community college to care for her. She spent 3 years watching her mother disappear. The experience broke her heart. It also gave her purpose. At 22, she enrolled in a CNA program. She graduated top of her class. She specialized in elder care. She was exceptionally good at it. Her supervisors described her as patient, competent, and genuinely invested in her patient's dignity. Her performance reviews were flawless. She never missed a shift. She wasn't chasing wealth. She was chasing meaning. Arthur Brennan had been a civil engineer. He'd designed bridges across 3 states. He'd been married to Eleanor for 53 years. They'd raised 3 children, Robert, 56, Catherine, 52, and Michael, 49. Eleanor died suddenly in March 2021. Aneurysm. Arthur never recovered from the loss. He tried to maintain his independence, but his health deteriorated. In August 2022, he suffered a stroke. The left side of his body was paralyzed. His speech was slurred, but his mind remained sharp. His children placed him in Meadowbrook Assisted Living. It was expensive. Arthur could afford it. He had assets worth approximately $4.2 million. The family home, investments, life insurance, and pension accounts. His children visited during the intake process. After that, they came once a month, sometimes less. Arthur spent the most days alone in his room, staring out the window. Jennifer was assigned to Arthur on September 12, 2022. Her initial assessment noted his physical limitations and cognitive clarity. She noted something else too: profound loneliness. The first month was professional. Jennifer helped Arthur with daily tasks, physical therapy, meals, medication management. She was efficient and respectful. Arthur rarely spoke. When he did, his words were difficult to understand. Jennifer learned to interpret. She was patient. She didn't rush him. She didn't finish his sentences. In late October, Arthur asked her about the photograph on her badge. It showed Jennifer with an elderly woman. Jennifer explained it was her mother. She died 4 years earlier, Alzheimer's. Arthur's eyes filled with tears. He told her about Eleanor. It was the longest conversation they'd had. Over the next 6 months, something shifted. Jennifer began arriving 15 minutes early for her shifts. She'd bring Arthur coffee from the cafeteria, not because it was required, because he enjoyed it. Arthur started watching for her in the mornings. His mood visibly improved on her shift days. In January 2023, Jennifer brought her laptop to work. During Arthur's physical therapy session, she showed him photos of bridges he'd designed. She'd researched them. She wanted him to remember he'd built things that mattered. Arthur cried. This time, they were good tears. By March 2023, their conversations had become the center of both their days. Jennifer told Arthur about her siblings, her mother's decline, her regret about leaving college. Arthur told her about Eleanor, his career, his disappointments with his children. They understood each other's grief. In April, Jennifer started visiting Arthur on her days off. She'd bring books. They'd read together. She'd wheel him outside when the weather was good. The facility staff noticed. They found it touching. Arthur Brennan finally seemed happy. His children noticed too. They did not find it touching. On May 18, 2023, Catherine Brennan arrived for an unannounced visit. She found Jennifer reading to her father in the courtyard. Arthur was smiling. As Catherine approached, Jennifer leaned down and kissed Arthur on the forehead. It was brief, affectionate, not sexual. Catherine froze. She said nothing. She turned and walked back to the parking lot. 30 minutes later, Jennifer received a call from her supervisor. She was instructed to limit physical contact with Mr. Brennan to necessary medical care only. Jennifer was confused. She asked what she'd done wrong. Her supervisor couldn't provide specifics. A family member had expressed concerns about appropriate boundaries. Jennifer understood immediately. She returned to Arthur's room and explained the new restrictions. Arthur's face fell. He asked if she was leaving. Jennifer promised she wasn't going anywhere. She didn't know that promise would cost her everything. Catherine called her brothers that evening. She described what she'd witnessed. She used words like inappropriate and concerning and predatory. Robert and Michael were skeptical at first. Their father was 81 years old. He'd been married for over 50 years. The idea that he'd developed romantic feelings for his caregiver seemed absurd. Catherine was insistent. She'd seen the way they looked at each other. Something was happening. On May 24th, 2023, all three siblings arrived at Meadowbrook together. They requested a meeting with the director of nursing. They expressed concerns about Jennifer's conduct. They suggested she was manipulating their father. They requested she be removed from his care rotation. The director reviewed Jennifer's file. There were no complaints, no violations, no red flags. The director offered to observe Jennifer during her shifts. If anything inappropriate occurred, action would be taken. Catherine demanded immediate reassignment. The director refused. The siblings left angry. On June 2nd, 2023, Robert, Catherine, and Michael confronted their father directly. The conversation lasted 40 minutes. According to facility staff who heard raised voices, Arthur defended Jennifer repeatedly. He told his children she was the only person who treated him like a human being. Catherine accused Jennifer of isolating their father. Arthur laughed bitterly. He pointed out they'd visited him 4 times in 9 months. Robert demanded Arthur promise to maintain professional boundaries. Arthur told Robert to leave. The siblings departed. They did not visit again for 6 weeks. During that time, Arthur made 2 phone calls. The first was to his attorney, David Kellerman. Arthur requested a meeting to discuss updating his will. The second was to Jennifer. He asked if she'd have dinner with him in the facility dining room. She said yes. On June 15, 2023, Catherine contacted an elder law attorney. She inquired about having her father declared legally incompetent. The attorney explained that cognitive impairment must be demonstrated through medical evaluation. Physical disability was not sufficient grounds. Catherine requested a psychiatric evaluation. She contacted Arthur's primary physician and demanded a competency assessment. On July 8, 2023, Dr. Helen Morrison conducted a comprehensive cognitive evaluation. The assessment included memory tests, logical reasoning, and decision-making scenarios. Arthur scored within normal ranges on every metric. Dr. Morrison's report concluded, "Patient demonstrates full cognitive capacity. He is capable of making informed decisions regarding his care, finances, and personal relationships." Catherine was furious. She accused the doctor of bias. Dr. Morrison noted the accusation in her records. On July 20th, 2023, Arthur met with his attorney. The meeting lasted 90 minutes. Arthur explained he wanted to update his will. He wanted to establish a trust for Jennifer Hartwell. Kellerman asked direct questions. Was Arthur being pressured? Was this decision made freely? Did he understand the implications? Arthur was clear. Jennifer had given him purpose in his final years. She'd treated him with dignity when his own children had abandoned him. He wanted to ensure she was taken care of. Kellerman drafted the new will. Arthur would leave $500,000 to Jennifer in a trust. The remainder of his estate would be divided among his 3 children. On August 3rd, 2023, Arthur signed the new will. 2 witnesses observed. The document was notarized. Arthur asked Kellerman to keep the change confidential. He didn't want his children causing problems while he was still alive. Kellerman agreed. Attorney-client privilege would protect the information. Arthur made one mistake. He told Jennifer about the trust. Jennifer tried to refuse. Arthur insisted. He said it gave him peace of mind. Jennifer reluctantly accepted. She made Arthur promise not to tell his children. She knew it would cause trouble. Arthur promised. 3 days later, Robert Brennan received a phone call. It came from Sarah Chen, a paralegal in Kellerman's office. Sarah was a friend of Robert's wife. She'd seen the new will during processing. She thought Robert should know what his father had done. Robert called an emergency family meeting. He told his siblings that their father had changed his will. A significant portion of their inheritance was being given to the caregiver. Catherine was apoplectic. Michael was stunned. Robert was calculating. He immediately contacted his own attorney to explore options. The legal advice was unambiguous. Arthur was competent. The will was valid. The trust was properly structured. Unless they could prove undue influence or manipulation, the document would stand. Proving undue influence required evidence. They had none. On August 18, 2023, all three siblings confronted Arthur again. Robert demanded Arthur revoke the trust. Arthur refused. Catherine accused Jennifer of manipulation. Arthur told Catherine she was jealous that someone actually cared about him. Michael tried a softer approach. He reminded Arthur how hard they'd worked for their own families. Surely he understood their concerns about financial security. Arthur's response was cold. He reminded Michael that each of them would still receive well over $1 million. That wasn't enough? The meeting ended with Catherine screaming that they'd contest the will. Arthur told her to do whatever she wanted. He'd be dead anyway. As they left, Robert turned back. He told his father he'd made a terrible mistake. Arthur said nothing. It was the last conversation they would ever have. On August 25, 2023, the three siblings met at Robert's home in Shaker Heights. Also present, Robert's wife, Lauren, and Catherine's husband, David. The meeting lasted 3 hours. According to later testimony from Michael Brennan, the conversation began with legal options. They discussed contesting the will. They discussed another competency challenge. They discussed hiring a private investigator to find evidence of manipulation. Robert pointed out the timeline. Their father was 81. Even if he lived another 5 years, any legal battle could drag on longer. By the time the courts decided, there might be nothing left. Catherine suggested another approach. What if Jennifer simply disappeared? The room went silent. Michael later testified he thought Catherine was speaking metaphorically. She wasn't. Catherine explained her logic. If Jennifer was gone, their father would have no reason to maintain the trust. He'd likely revert to the original will. Robert asked how Jennifer would disappear. Catherine said she knew someone, a friend of David's from his military days, someone who handled problems. Michael said this was insane. They couldn't be seriously considering this. Lauren spoke for the first time. She asked what the alternative was. Let some nurse steal half their inheritance? The conversation continued. By the end of the meeting, no final decision had been made, but the possibility was now on the table. On September 1st, 2023, David Chen made a phone call. David had served in the Army with a man named Marcus Webb. Webb had been dishonorably discharged in 2015 for assaulting a superior officer. Since then, he'd worked as private security, bodyguard services, and what he described as problem resolution. David and Marcus had stayed in touch. They met for drinks occasionally when Marcus was in Ohio. David called and asked if they could meet. Marcus suggested a bar in Lakewood. They met on September 3rd. According to Marcus Webb's later testimony, David was vague at first. He talked about a family problem, someone taking advantage of his father-in-law, someone who needed to go away. Marcus asked what go away meant. David clarified, permanently. Marcus asked the obvious questions. Who was the target? What was the payment? What were the consequences if this went wrong? David said the target was a home health aide. The payment would be $75,000, half up front, half after completion. Marcus asked if David understood what he was really requesting. David said he did. Marcus said he'd think about it. 3 days later, Marcus called back. He was in. Before any violence occurred, the family made one final attempt. On September 8, 2023, Robert Brennan requested a private meeting with Jennifer Hartwell. They met in a coffee shop in Cleveland Heights. Robert arrived with a briefcase. He was direct. He explained that his father's new will was causing significant family stress. He understood Jennifer had formed a bond with Arthur. He respected that. But the inheritance was complicating things. Robert offered Jennifer $150,000 cash to refuse the trust. Jennifer was stunned. She said she'd never asked Arthur for anything. The trust had been his idea. Robert increased the offer to $250,000. Jennifer refused. She said Arthur's decisions were his own. She wasn't going to undermine his autonomy. Robert warned her this would end badly. The family would contest the will. They'd make her life difficult. Wouldn't it be easier to just take the money and walk away? Jennifer stood up. She said if Robert truly cared about his father, he'd visit more than once every 2 months. She left the coffee shop. Robert called Catherine immediately. He told her the soft approach had failed. Catherine said she'd handle it from here. On September 10, 2023, Catherine met with Marcus Webb. The meeting occurred in a Home Depot parking lot in Parma. Catherine had withdrawn $37,500 from her business account. The money was in a canvas tote bag. Marcus asked for details about the target. Catherine provided Jennifer's full name, address, vehicle description, and work schedule. She also provided photographs. They'd been taken from Meadowbrook's security cameras. Catherine had befriended a janitor who had access. Marcus asked if Catherine understood there was no going back from this. Catherine said she understood. She handed Marcus the tote bag. Marcus counted the money. It was all there. He told Catherine he needed 1 week to surveil the target and plan the approach. Catherine asked how it would happen. Marcus said she didn't need those details. The less she knew, the better. Catherine provided her cell phone number. She used the name Karen Miller. Marcus would text updates using that name. They agreed to meet again once the job was complete. Same location, same time of day. Marcus drove away first. Catherine waited 10 minutes before leaving. The Home Depot surveillance cameras captured both vehicles, license plates clearly visible. Between September 11th and September 16th, 2023, Marcus Webb tracked Jennifer's movements. He identified her apartment complex in Garfield Heights. Ground floor unit, 1 entrance, parking lot poorly lit. He noted her schedule. She left for work at 5:15 a.m. She returned between 3:30 and 4 p.m. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, she went to the gym after work. He followed her to Meadowbrook several times. He observed her interactions with Arthur Brennan through the courtyard windows. On September 15th, he determined the optimal approach. Jennifer's gym was in a strip mall. The parking lot had minimal security cameras. She typically left around 6 p.m. when it was starting to get dark. Marcus finalized his plan. On September 16th, he sent a text to the number Catherine had provided. Ready to proceed. Confirm green light. Catherine's response came within 2 minutes. Green light. Tuesday. September 19th, 2023 was a Tuesday. At 2:30 p.m., Catherine sent Marcus a text. Target at work. Normal schedule. Vehicle is blue Honda Civic. License XXX-XXXX. Marcus was already in position at the gym. At 4:45 p.m., Jennifer's Honda pulled into the parking lot. Marcus watched her enter the building. At 6:02 p.m., Jennifer exited. She was wearing athletic clothes and carrying a gym bag. She walked across the parking lot toward her car. Marcus was waiting beside a white panel van. Jennifer's last Instagram post was from 1:30 p.m. that day. It was a photo of her and Arthur in the Meadowbrook courtyard. Arthur was smiling. The caption read, "Happy Tuesday. Grateful for the people who remind me why I love this job." She'd had lunch with a coworker. They discussed plans for the weekend. Jennifer was going to visit her sister in Columbus. She texted her younger brother at 4 p.m. Hitting the gym, then grabbing groceries. Want me to bring anything Sunday? Her brother responded, "Nah, I'm good. Drive safe." It was the last text Jennifer Hartwell would ever send. At 6:04 p.m., as Jennifer approached her vehicle, Marcus Webb stepped from behind the van. He was holding a taser. He deployed it before Jennifer could react. 50,000 volts immobilized her nervous system. She collapsed. Marcus caught her before she hit the pavement. To any distant observer, it looked like he was helping someone who'd fainted. He lifted her into the back of the van. The entire abduction took less than 30 seconds. He zip-tied her wrists and ankles. He covered her mouth with duct tape. He threw a tarp over her. At 6:06 p.m., Marcus Webb drove out of the parking lot. The gym security cameras captured the van entering and exiting. The license plate was visible. It was registered to a rental company. Marcus had rented it using a fake ID, but the ID had been created using his real photo. Marcus drove to an abandoned industrial building in East Cleveland. He'd scouted the location days earlier. The building had been empty for 5 years. Broken windows, no electricity, no surveillance. Inside, he'd prepared a small area. He'd brought a portable lantern, plastic sheeting, tools. At approximately 6:45 p.m., Marcus carried Jennifer into the building. She was conscious, terrified. She couldn't scream through the tape. According to Marcus Webb's later testimony, he told Jennifer he was sorry. He said it wasn't personal. He said he'd make it quick. At 6:52 p.m., Marcus strangled Jennifer Hartwell to death. The medical examiner would later determine she'd struggled. There were defensive marks on her wrists where she'd fought against the zip ties, petechial hemorrhaging in her eyes, ligature marks on her throat. It took approximately 4 minutes for her to lose consciousness. It took another 2 minutes for her heart to stop. Marcus wrapped her body in the plastic sheeting. He left it in the abandoned building. He would return to dispose of it properly after receiving the second payment. On September 20th, 2023, at 3 p.m., Marcus Webb met Catherine Brennan at the same Home Depot parking lot. Catherine arrived with another canvas tote bag. This one contained the remaining $37,500. Marcus confirmed the job was complete. Catherine asked no questions about details. Marcus handed her Jennifer's wallet and cell phone. He said these needed to be destroyed completely. Catherine said she'd handle it. She gave Marcus the money. He counted it. It was correct. Catherine asked if this could ever be traced back to them. Marcus said not if everyone kept their mouths shut. They separated. Both drove in opposite directions. The parking lot cameras captured this meeting too. Both vehicles, both license plates, both faces clearly visible. Catherine drove home and burned Jennifer's wallet and phone in her backyard fire pit. The plastic released toxic fumes. Catherine's neighbor noticed and almost called the fire department. Catherine told her she was burning old paperwork. Jennifer didn't show up for her shift on September 20th. This was unprecedented. Jennifer had perfect attendance. She always called if she'd be late. Her supervisor tried calling. Voicemail. By noon, Meadowbrook called Jennifer's emergency contact, her younger brother, David. David was confused. He'd texted with her yesterday. She was fine. He drove to Jennifer's apartment. Her car wasn't in the parking lot. He knocked. No answer. David called the police. He filed a missing person report. Arthur Brennan was informed that Jennifer wouldn't be coming in. He asked why. The staff said they weren't sure. They were trying to reach her. Arthur's face drained of color. He said something was wrong. Jennifer would never just disappear. On September 21st, Robert, Catherine, and Michael arrived at Meadowbrook. They told their father they needed to speak with him privately. According to facility staff who were present, Robert did most of the talking. He said they had difficult news. Jennifer Hartwell had left town. She'd taken money from multiple patients. The facility was investigating. She'd likely fled to avoid prosecution. Arthur refused to believe it. He said Jennifer would never steal. This was a lie. Catherine said they'd seen the evidence. Jennifer had been manipulating vulnerable patients for months. She'd targeted Arthur specifically because of his wealth. Arthur became agitated. He demanded proof. Robert said the police were handling it. Jennifer was gone. She wasn't coming back. Arthur began crying. He said they were lying. They'd done something to her. Michael tried to calm him down. He said they understood Arthur felt betrayed. Jennifer had fooled everyone. Arthur stopped responding. He turned his wheelchair toward the window. He didn't speak another word for 3 days. The facility staff became concerned about Arthur's condition. He stopped eating. He refused physical therapy. He stopped taking his medications voluntarily. His physician, Dr. Morrison, visited on September 25th. She found Arthur severely depressed. He told her he had nothing left to live for. Dr. Morrison recommended psychiatric evaluation. Arthur refused. On September 27th, Arthur's heart rate became irregular. He was transported to University Hospital's Cleveland Medical Center. Diagnosis: Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, broken heart syndrome. Extreme emotional stress had damaged his heart muscle. Arthur spent 4 days in intensive care. His children visited once. On October 1st, Arthur experienced a massive heart attack. Resuscitation was attempted. At 3:47 a.m. on October 2nd, 2023, Arthur Brennan was pronounced dead. He died believing the woman he loved had betrayed him. He was wrong. On October 5th, attorney David Kellerman contacted the Brennan children to discuss Arthur's estate. The meeting occurred at Kellerman's office. Robert, Catherine, and Michael all attended. Kellerman read the will. When he reached the section establishing the $500,000 trust for Jennifer Hartwell, Catherine interrupted. She said Jennifer had stolen from multiple patients. She'd fled. The trust should be voided. Kellerman said he'd heard nothing about these allegations. He'd need documentation. Catherine said the investigation was ongoing. Kellerman made a note. He'd follow up with law enforcement. If criminal charges were filed, it might impact the distribution. The meeting concluded. The 3 siblings left satisfied. Jennifer's trust would never be paid. Jennifer was dead. Their plan had worked, or so they thought. On October 8th, 2023, a homeless man named Jerome Patterson was exploring the abandoned building in East Cleveland looking for copper wire to sell. He found Jennifer Hartwell's body. He called 911 immediately. Cleveland police detectives arrived within 20 minutes. The body was wrapped in plastic, clear signs of foul play. The medical examiner determined death by strangulation. Time of death approximately 2 weeks prior. The body was identified through dental records on October 9th. Detectives began with Jennifer's known associates. They interviewed her family, coworkers, and friends. Everyone said the same thing. Jennifer was reliable, kind, and had no enemies. Her disappearance made no sense. Detectives obtained Jennifer's phone records. Her phone had been turned off on September 19th at 6:04 p.m. The last location ping came from a cell tower near the gym where she worked out. Detectives visited the gym. They obtained security footage from September 19th. The footage showed Jennifer entering at 4:45 p.m. and exiting at 6:02 p.m. It also showed a white panel van in the parking lot. The van's driver appeared to be waiting. At 6:04 p.m., the van left the lot. License plate visible. Detectives traced the plate to a rental company. The van had been rented on September 11th by a man named Thomas Mitchell. The ID used was fake, but the rental agreement included a photocopy of the driver's license. Facial recognition identified the man as Marcus Webb. Marcus Webb was 38 years old, dishonorably discharged from the Army, previous arrests for assault. He lived in Euclid. Detectives obtained a search warrant. On October 12th, they executed the warrant on Webb's apartment. They found $75,000 cash in a safe. They found zip ties identical to those used on Jennifer. They found receipts for plastic sheeting. They also found a burner phone. The phone contained text messages with a contact labeled KM. The messages discussed payment, schedules, and the job. Detectives traced the number. It belonged to a phone purchased at a CVS in Parma on August 28th. Security footage from that purchase showed Catherine Brennan buying the phone. On October 15th, 2023, detectives arrested Marcus Webb at his apartment. He was charged with murder, kidnapping, and tampering with evidence. During interrogation, Webb initially remained silent. His attorney advised him not to speak. On October 18th, prosecutors offered a deal. reduce the murder charge to manslaughter, 20 years instead of life. The condition: full cooperation. Names, dates, details. Webb's attorney recommended acceptance. Webb agreed. On October 19th, Marcus Webb provided a complete statement. He described his relationship with David Chen. He described the meeting with Catherine Brennan. He described the planning, the surveillance, the payment structure. He provided dates, locations, and amounts. Most importantly, he turned over the rental agreement with his fake ID, the text message records with Karen Miller, and physical evidence linking Catherine to the burner phone purchase. On October 20th, 2023, police arrested Catherine Brennan at her home in Shaker Heights. She was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, murder for hire, and first-degree murder. Her husband, David Chen, was arrested simultaneously and charged as an accessory. On October 21st, detectives interviewed Robert and Michael Brennan. Both denied knowledge of any murder plot. Both claimed the family meeting on August 25th had been about legal strategies only. Detectives obtained phone records. Between August 25th and September 19th, there were 47 calls between the three siblings and their spouses. On October 25th, police arrested Robert Brennan and his wife, Lauren. On October 26th, they arrested Michael Brennan. All were charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Forensic analysts examined phones, computers, and financial records. Catherine's bank records showed the $75,000 withdrawal in 2 installments, September 10th and September 20th. Exact amounts matching Webb's payment. Text messages between the siblings included incriminating language. Robert to Catherine on September 12th. "Are you sure about this?" "No, going back." Catherine's response: "It's the only option." She refused the money. Lauren Brennan's text to Robert on September 18th. "Tomorrow?" Robert's response: "Yes." Michael's text showed less direct involvement, but he'd been present at the August 25th meeting. He'd received updates. He hadn't reported the conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming. The prosecutions were separated. Marcus Webb pleaded guilty to manslaughter. He received 20 years with possibility of parole. Catherine Brennan faced first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, murder for hire, and tampering with evidence. David Chen faced conspiracy to commit murder and accessory before the fact. Robert Brennan faced conspiracy to commit murder. Lauren Brennan faced conspiracy to commit murder. Michael Brennan faced conspiracy to commit murder and accessory after the fact. All pleaded not guilty. The trial began on April 3rd, 2024, in Cuyahoga County Court. Prosecutor Amanda Reeves methodically built the case. She presented the surveillance footage from the gym. Jennifer walking to her car, the white van waiting, the van leaving, minutes later. She presented the rental agreement with Marcus Webb's photo. She presented the text messages between Karen Miller and Webb's burner phone. She presented the CVS security footage showing Catherine purchasing the burner phone. She presented bank records showing Catherine's withdrawals matching payment amounts. She presented the family text messages discussing the problem of Jennifer. She presented Webb's testimony. He described every meeting, every payment, every detail. She presented the Home Depot parking lot surveillance showing Catherine and Webb meeting twice. She presented the medical examiner's testimony about Jennifer's cause of death. And she presented Arthur Brennan's updated will with the $500,000 trust. She connected every dot. Catherine's defense attorney argued Webb had acted independently. Catherine had hired him for intimidation only. She'd wanted to scare Jennifer away. Webb had escalated to murder without authorization. The text messages didn't explicitly say murder. They said, handle the problem and make her disappear. The jury wasn't convinced. The payments, the timing, the burial of evidence, all pointed to knowledge and intent. David Chen's attorney argued he'd made a phone call but hadn't participated in planning or payment. He'd cooperated with Catherine unwillingly to preserve his marriage. The evidence suggested otherwise. Robert and Lauren's defense focused on lack of direct evidence. They discussed options. They hadn't paid money or hired anyone. The calls and texts were family members staying informed about a difficult situation. Michael's defense was similar. He'd been present for discussions. He'd expressed concern, but he hadn't participated in hiring Webb or funding the operation. Prosecutor Reeves was direct in her closing argument. They didn't need to hold the rope to be guilty of murder. They planned it. They funded it. They celebrated it. Jennifer Hartwell is dead because every person at that table decided her life was worth less than their inheritance. The jury deliberated for 11 hours over 2 days. On May 2nd, 2024, they returned their verdict. Catherine Brennan, guilty on all counts. David Chen, guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. Robert Brennan, guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. Lauren Brennan, guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. Michael Brennan, guilty as an accessory after the fact. On June 14th, 2024, sentences were handed down. Catherine Brennan, life in prison without possibility of parole. David Chen, 25 years with possibility of parole. Robert Brennan, 30 years with possibility of parole. Lauren Brennan, 25 years with possibility of parole. Michael Brennan, 15 years with possibility of parole. Marcus Webb had already been sentenced to 20 years. None would be eligible for parole before they were elderly themselves. Under Ohio's Slayer statute, individuals convicted of murder cannot inherit from their victims. Catherine, Robert, and Michael Brennan were disqualified from Arthur's estate. Their spouses, as accomplices, were similarly disqualified. Arthur's will contained a provision. If any beneficiary is convicted of a crime related to Jennifer Hartwell or Arthur himself, their inheritance reverts to Jennifer's designated beneficiary, her younger brother, David Hartwell. Additionally, a protective clause stated that if Jennifer predeceased Arthur under suspicious circumstances, her $500,000 trust would triple and be distributed to a charity of the executor's choosing. Attorney Kellerman, as executor, selected the Alzheimer's Association in memory of Jennifer's mother. The Brennan children received nothing. David Hartwell received $3.1 million. The Alzheimer's Association received $1.5 million in Jennifer's name. The family that murdered for inheritance was left with nothing but prison sentences. At sentencing, David Hartwell read a statement on behalf of his family. He described Jennifer as the kindest person he'd ever known. She'd sacrificed her education to care for their mother. She'd chosen a career helping others. She'd never harmed anyone. He said the Brennan family had destroyed not one life, but two. Jennifer died violently and alone. Arthur died believing the woman he loved had betrayed him. Neither knew the truth. He said he hoped they understood the magnitude of what they'd done. He said he'd never forgive them. Jennifer's case prompted discussions about vulnerability in caregiving professions. The Ohio Board of Nursing issued new guidelines about protecting healthcare workers from family interference and harassment. Several nursing organizations used Jennifer's case in training materials about professional boundaries and safety protocols. Meadowbrook Assisted Living implemented new security measures for staff parking areas. The case also highlighted the manipulation of elder abuse claims. False accusations of exploitation can be weaponized by families pursuing financial motives. Attorneys specializing in elder law began including protective clauses in wills specifically designed to prevent violence against caregivers or romantic partners. On September 19, 2025, the second anniversary of Jennifer's death, the Alzheimer's Association dedicated a memorial garden in Cleveland. The garden is named the Jennifer Hartwell Memorial Garden for Caregivers. A bronze plaque reads, "In memory of Jennifer Hartwell, CNA. She gave dignity to those who needed it most. She died protecting someone else's autonomy. May we honor her by caring for those who care for others." David Hartwell attends the garden regularly. He brings flowers on Jennifer's birthday. He says she'd be proud the money went to research for the disease that took their mother. He says she'd want other caregivers to be safe. As of February 2026, Catherine Brennan is incarcerated at the Ohio Reformatory for Women. She maintains her innocence. She has filed multiple appeals. All have been denied. David Chen is incarcerated at Madison Correctional Institution. He has expressed remorse. He participates in prison education programs. Robert Brennan is incarcerated at Mansfield Correctional Institution. He rarely communicates with family. His wife divorced him in 2025. Lauren Brennan is incarcerated at the Ohio Reformatory for Women. She claims she was coerced into participation. The courts have not found this argument persuasive. Michael Brennan is incarcerated at Noble Correctional Institution. He is the only defendant who fully admitted guilt and expressed genuine remorse. His earliest parole eligibility is 2032. Marcus Webb is incarcerated at Ross Correctional Institution. He has provided testimony in 3 other contract murder cases in exchange for consideration. None of Arthur Brennan's children have expressed remorse for their father's death. None have acknowledged that their lies killed him. Look again at Jennifer Hartwell entering that building on September 19th, 2023. She's 34 years old. She's carrying her gym bag. She's texting her brother. She's planning her weekend. She has no idea this is her last normal moment. Within 4 minutes, she'll be taken. Within an hour, she'll be dead. She died because she made an elderly man happy. She died because she refused a bribe. She died because 3 adult children decided their inheritance was worth more than her life. Arthur Brennan died believing the woman he loved had betrayed him. He never knew she'd refused a fortune because she genuinely cared about him. Jennifer Hartwell and Arthur Brennan never got to say goodbye, but they didn't die for nothing. The money meant to keep them apart now helps others like them. Their story serves as a reminder. Care work is dangerous work. Vulnerable people have agency. Families can be monsters. And sometimes justice means ensuring the inheritance you killed for ends up exactly where you tried to prevent it from going. Jennifer's trust was supposed to be $500,000. Because of the protective clause, it became $1.5 million. The Brennan children got exactly what they deserved. Nothing.